first feeling or sensation, soften with your breath to go a layer deeper, becoming more honest with yourself, how you feel right now. And then feeling your heartbeat beneath your hand. I am here. I am present. I am loved. And here in this space, this is the most important place that you can go, is within. When you're ready, just taking a deep cleansing breath in through the nose. And letting it go, breathing out. Just taking your time to come back. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Be careful it doesn't tip out. It's good to do a check-in. I was like, oh, I should try this myself. Why not? Give that a go. I was like, how am I feeling? I'm like, I'm feeling nervously excited. And that's a fucking good energy, isn't it? Right? There's like just that bee's dick between nerves and excitement. All you got to do is take that leap of faith and you're in the excitement realm. But if you let the fear stop you, you just get stuck in fear realm. So I think that's a good way to segue into a bit about us and what we do and why we're here and why we're on the planet right now. There's been a lot of great speakers and performers here, and we're super blessed to be a part of the crew. Super thankful to Dave and Erin and Dylan, all the people who have put in so much effort to get all of this up in trying conditions. But haven't the last 5 years been trying conditions? On every level. Put your hand up if you've confronted fear on a daily basis in some manner. Right, and that's the thing. Like, I've heard other people talking about vibration. We live and breathe sound and vibration. It's what we do. And I think people don't understand why it's so important. And to be completely honest, I can't explain why it's so important, but it is one of the most important things that you can do. And I know because in 2018, I went through a breakdown of a relationship, a 13-year relationship, and I thought, oh, this is going pretty well. It was amicable, it was all going pretty well, and then my ex-wife moved out with my son, and I was in a 5-bedroom rental on my own going, what the fuck just happened? Like, I got hit by all the emotions that I was bypassing. It was too much. So I did what I did in my 20s, which was really successful at not dealing with shit then. And I made a bong and I smoked weed for like 3 weeks straight. Just punching cones, like Gran Turismo, like, yeah, 22 again, just 48, but pretending I'm 22. Like, seriously. And I just woke up one morning and I just went, oh my God, I know where this road leads. I know exactly where this road ends. And I read this book by this psychic, and he was talking about raising your vibration. And he was saying to connect with spirit, he would raise his vibration. And then, because spirit, whatever you want to consider spirits, but he was talking about literal spirits for communication. Very high vibrational, we're very low vibrational. We raise our vibration, they lower theirs, we connect in the middle. I was like, oh, this is fascinating, and I'll raise my vibration. Don't know what that means, but I'm going to do it. And I looked at the list of things not to do, and I went, oh, that's my life. Drinking, smoking, partying, drugs, hanging out with drama-driven people, like, cheating, betrayal, like, well, that's the last 30-something years. So I actually decided to stop all of the stuff. So I haven't had an alcoholic beverage since March 2018. That one thing alone, that changes everything. I stopped drinking coffee and tea. I stopped going out to parties and stuff with drama-driven people. I started to meditate every day. You stop drinking, you start meditating every day, your life will shift in ways that you will not be able to comprehend. Hang on, it's not a fucking easy ride. You're going to pretty much let go of everything you know. But it shifted everything. And I started to be able to do things I didn't know I could do. Like I was in meditations, like connecting with past lives, just going, whoa, what the fuck what is that about? Like, well, I knew what it was about because it was about being a gladiator, and I'd ask this question, why I keep getting knocked down in my businesses and like, all this stuff. And it showed me the karmic connection to past lives. And I was like, I couldn't do that before. This is wildly weird, but I'm just going to keep following it. So to cut a long story short, I started seeing signs and synchronicities, numbers. Who's seen 1111 this weekend? Who's seen 111, 333? Who's seen number plates? 22, hello? Repeating numbers. I saw animals. I had all these messages and I just started following them. I just followed. People would say, hey, you've heard of this, you've done this, you've gone here, and 3 times. I'd just go. Didn't know what it was about. I'm just going there, just following the breadcrumbs. If you want to believe in the divine, the universe, God, start doing that. Start following what they're trying to show you. And so, anyway, I saw these signs to go to Uluru, to this thing called the Cosmic Consciousness Conference. What is that? What the fuck is that? I don't know. I saw it, $888. I'm like, I'm seeing 8 right now. Let's get into that. I booked everything. I booked to go to the conference, booked my flights, booked my accommodation. It was like May or something in 2018, and I had no idea what I was going to, but I just booked it, and that was it. It sat there waiting for me.
So while all this was going on, I was 28, and I don't know if people here have probably heard of Saturn return. I was definitely going through that, and I was in a relationship which turned out that he was suffering with addiction, particularly sex addiction, but not with me. So that was a bit of a shock to me to find that out. But what it did is it activated and triggered for me all of my deep wounds around betrayal, things that I remembered and things I didn't remember. And it really shot me into a deep state of anxiety, depression, and even feeling suicidal. And so at that point in my life, I decided to check into a mental health hospital, which was called South Pacific Private, which was on the Northern Beaches. It's a copy hospital of the Meadows, if anybody's heard of that in the States, which has incredible success rates. And in this hospital, thankfully, it was pre-COVID, and it actually was a psychoeducational place. It was a place where they got us connecting to our own version of spirituality and getting us to meditate at least 3 times a day. I don't really know many hospitals now that probably do that. But it was definitely part of my path, and so I got there, and I remember saying to myself, I'm promising to commit to as much time, money, and energy as it takes to get myself back on track, because if I didn't go into that hospital, I'm not sure I would have been here today. And wouldn't have had our beautiful daughter here today. So back then, once I started meditating and having the permission even to be able to find my own version of what life was about, of what my faith was. I wasn't being told what it was, I was being given the invitation to connect within, which is the most important part for all of us, to go within and find ourselves. And through that process, I came out the other end, I ended that relationship. And then I was starting to, I did do a lot of different alternative therapies, energy healing, Reiki, and I ended up getting an email from a guy called Mick Turner. I think it was in a few months before December, but December was when I actually decided to check it out, and it said Uluru Cosmic Consciousness January 2019. And I just started reading the email and I was trying to understand what this conference was about. I had no idea who Mick Turner was or how he got my email. That was definitely a divine alignment. And I wanted to get my ticket. I realized I didn't have, at that point, I didn't feel like I had enough money. I tried everything to get to this conference because I had this. Now I understand it as my intuition pulling me and calling me, telling me that this was something that I really needed to go to. It was part of my soul's plan as an activation and a remembering. And so I went in, I was a personal trainer at the time, and I went into my client. The first synchronicity was that his name was Tim. And he was my highest paying client. I had him 4 times a week. And he said to me, Elise, when do you go to Uluru? Because I'd been talking about it for 3 weeks. And I said, I can't go, I actually can't afford it. And just before that, the night before that, I had given up. I sat at the computer trying to book, nothing was in flow. And I surrendered. And what they shared with us in the hospital was to surrender to a higher power, whatever you wanted to call that higher power. And I sat at the computer crying that night saying, please, if I'm meant to go to this conference, someone help me. And then the next day I went to my personal training client, Tim, and he asked me that question. I said, actually, Tim, I'm not going. I can't afford it. And he said, don't be ridiculous, Elise. You've talked about this for 3 weeks. I'm giving you $1,000 for your Christmas present. This was my first lesson in learning to receive. So I said no. And then I said no. And he was about to retract. And I said, actually, if you're serious, I'll take it. And he wrote me a check on the Saturday. I went home and I booked my ticket. Everything flowed. The conference, we went there. That was in Uluru. It was on the 11th of the 1st, 2019. I rocked up. I got to the airport and I remember seeing Tim, at the airport. And I remember thinking, he's alright, but he's not my type. I was into bad boys and that got me a lot of trouble. But I remember, we remember catching eyes and we saw each other's eyes, and there's just this now an understanding of a soul recognition. And from there, we got on the bus. Tim got on first, I got on next. I saw he was sitting at the front. We ended up getting off at the same hotel called the Lost Camel, which was quite fitting at that time of our lives, I think. And I walked up to Tim and, I don't know, you always say something different. What did I say?
Are you going to the Cosmic Consciousness Conference? And I was like, yes, I am. And you're like, do you know what it's about? I'm like, I got no fucking idea. No. That started the conversation.
Well, yeah, he said, I got no idea. And I said, I've got no idea either. I just knew I was meant to be here. We started talking. We go to check in and the lady at the front desk says, oh, you guys come together. And then she's like, so where are you from? And she was treating us as if we were a couple. And I was like, I'd just come out of, the mental health hospital 6 months ago, committed to no drugs, no sex, no dating, no alcohol. I was like, oh no, we aren't together. I'm an independent woman. And and he was talking and he was going along with it, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, we checked in separately and then we decided to exchange numbers. And so looking back, we exchanged numbers at 111. So 11 and 1s and 111, 1111 has always been a big number for us. And so we decided to go for lunch. Tim said, I'll grab your number and then when we go shopping, we can go for lunch after that. So I got back to the hotel and I started getting all of those giddy feelings and thinking, hell yeah, this is why I was supposed to be here. I was here to meet my future husband. I knew I was meant to be here. And so I got in and I just dropped my bags and I texted him straight away. He was a bit shocked he was going to settle in. But we went for lunch and we were sitting at the lunch table and he gets a phone call. And he's talking, he gets off the phone and I think he said, oh, that was my son. And so I'm like, okay, all right, you got a son? How old is he? And he said, oh, he's 10. I'm like, 10? So I was looking at Tim thinking he was about 35, I was 28. I said, right, 10, so how old are you? And he said, I'm 48. And in that moment, my whole perception of reality changed. It's fascinating what our minds can do. Instantly, I felt quite disgusted that I thought that he was going to be my partner and then we have a 21-year age gap. I thought, how embarrassing. So in that moment, everything shifted for me and I became, we are twin flames. And I knew about twin flames before Uluru and I was calling him in. Tim didn't, but twin flames was not something that I thought it was, actually. It's turned out quite different.
Yeah. Oh, that was the beginning. It was the 11th of the 1st. It was 111. We swapped numbers. And then for the next 4 months, we danced around rejection and abandonment, freaking out about what other people would think, worried about what the family would say, worried about what people would think walking at the mall. And I was like, I've never felt love like this before, and I've rejected so many people, and this is my karma. Will it ever come out? So there's a chaser and a runner in twin flame dynamics, and we're not going to go into a lot of that. You can, don't, if you look it up, a lot of it's romanticized. It's fucking not romantic, right? I tell you, it's not romantic. It has romantic elements, but it's not about that. It really, twin flames, we're here to raise the vibration of the planet. We're here to help the collective ascend vibrationally. What does that mean? Why are so many people dying right now? Well, we know some of the reasons, right? But there's going to be a lot more people passing over, because if we're going to step into a new earth, the potential new earth, we have to have a vibrational shift. Not just as an individual, but as a collective. And that also is happening with the earth and everything around us, right? So if you're holding fear, if you're really holding fear, which was the only reason why people did things that were so illogical through COVID, then that is one of the lowest vibrations. You ain't going to be a part of the shift over time, because fear is usually driven by trauma and wounds. So you got to be healing. You got to be ready to step into yourself and look into yourself and start to move beyond the intergenerational trauma. There's so much of that. Like, holy shit. You don't know, a lot of what your shit is not yours. It's not yours. You can give it back to your dad and your granddad and your great-granddad and your great-great-granddad, and then you can start dealing with your own. This is what we need to do. This is the work, right? And so this is what our life has become about. This is what we do in illogical ways. You know, we don't make a lot of money, but we spend our life doing what we love and what we're here to change the planet doing. And we've learned to live in new ways so that we can afford to make what we make, doing what we love, changing the planet, and not connect into that system of thievery and bullshit. The other thing we need to do as a collective is we have to take ourselves from helplessness back to self-sufficiency. We have become helpless, and we're helpless to industries that are raping and pillaging us. They're stealing from us, and they're killing our kids and our grandparents and our parents in the name of profit. We need to stop doing that. We need to realize that we are our wellness creator, and we can create wellness for ourselves and those around us by what we eat, by what we do, by what we drink, by what we say, by what we believe, and by the healing and the habits that we take on. And so, yeah, we do lots of different things, but really everything comes back to that sound of vibration. Because there's a certain vibrational bandwidth where you can connect to things that you don't know that you can do. You look at mediums and psychics and all these people, you go, I couldn't do that. You can. You actually can. But whatever anchors you have vibrationally, those things that are holding you back, that's work. That's what there is to let go of. You can never change the past, right? The past is the past. You can't change anything that's happened to you. But it's like every one of those memories and those traumas is like an anchor. And so are you going to let that anchor be tied to your ship, your person? Or at some point, are you going to untie some of those anchors and let yourself rise? I don't know how I got that excited. That was the excited part, not the nervous.
But just to add to that, I think in terms of what we do, and one of the things that we're deeply passionate about because of our own personal journey, is actually supporting people to find their own power within themselves. To come back to the truth of remembering who you are. Just like when a newborn baby comes into the world and you look at this newborn baby, and there is no judgment. There is no judgment. They are so pure and they come in like that. And that's what we all were. That's what we all are. So how can we continue to remember the truth of who we are? Because then nothing can touch us. And I think that was one of the biggest things through COVID, that the minute that stuff came out, straight away, it wasn't an intellectual thought or reading the data. It was an intuitive feeling of going, hold on a second, this doesn't resonate truth. So imagine the more and more people that live their lives being able to discern through your intuition, through that feeling, through that sense, through that knowing. We have everything that we need within us. And I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but it gets said so much. But then how do we support people to find that, to remember that? I tell you, it doesn't happen by standing up on stage and me telling you that I'm going to heal you, and me telling you to do this particular breath work, and you're doing it this way, or you're doing it this way, or you're doing it the wrong way, and you should be doing it my way. It's not going to happen like that, and we don't teach like that. We don't share like that. Our mission and our purpose is we do want to share our story to inspire, for you to find your own resonance of your own story within ours, because we're all connected. But more importantly, for you to be able to go within everything we offer, all of our services and offerings that we love, is to support you and to hold space for you to go within and to activate that soul remembering. Because when more and more people remember this truth, remember who you are, not the conditions, not societal expectations, not the lineage, well, the near lineage of trauma, but actually the truth of who you are, the essence of who you are is love. And you see that in children. And so that's why it is so important for us to protect them. So we're gonna get into it. Okay, one more thing.
If you're wanting to know a little bit more about what we're talking about, to navigate a bit more of a spiritual path to this whole vibrational realm that we've been talking about, I wrote a book last year. It's called The Hitchhiker's Guide to Ascension. 2020 and beyond, the not so subtle art of awakening. And basically this book was channeled in 2020. I didn't know I could channel. Do you know you can channel? Anybody here know they can channel? You can channel. Turns out, and I channel all this stuff and like, I don't know what the fuck this means. So it sat there for a while, and then fast forward like 3 years and it's like, oh, that's what just happened for the last 3 years. And it's about this time we're going through. This time, which is, they've called the forgetting. We're going, you saw people literally forget. They forgot about their freedom. They forgot about what was morally and ethically correct. They forgot about loving their loved ones and literally kind of cast us aside for being different, right? So that is represented collectively and individually. The forgetting represents the time we need to take now to heal, to forget our magnificence, to remember the truth of our trauma, to love, come to love and acceptance with that and let it go. What's on the other side of that is the great remembering. And I believe that that's what we're heading to as a collective. Now, whether that's in separate timelines playing out simultaneously, I don't know. There could be like the city thing happening and then people in like creating communities. I don't know what the future holds, and they wouldn't show me that. But there's a great remembering coming, and that great remembering, you can call it the Rainbow Tribe, you can call it, the Rainbow Bridge, whatever you want to call it. That is where you get to step into the truth of who you are. And so this book is about that. It's about sticking it to the education system, sticking it to the government, sticking it to the medical industry and the pharmaceutical industry, and saying, stop doing what they tell you. That's part of the problem. It's called inverted reality syndrome. Whenever you see on the news, flip it. The villain's probably the hero's probably the villain. So if you want to come and find out more about the courses and the book and stuff, we've got a stand over here. Come and talk to us. We are going to do some sound. We're here to do breath work, right? You came here to do some breath work and sound. We're going to do that now.